So, hello, this is Queasy Crayfish here with Marz Vindicator once again, and we're gonna continue our Sega discussion from last time about why Sega is trash. And yeah, I don't know what did you want to talk about today?
Well,
General Sega.
today we're gonna be a little more specific. Um, I want to talk about basically I want to talk about Sega franchises.
Sega franchises.
I want to take them, compare them a bit to Nintendo, and talk about how number one, they didn't even really do the best job at creating franchises, and then number two, how they, you know, stopped a lot of them. They just halted some of them during the 32-bit era.
So you say they didn't do the best job of starting them?
Well, okay, look. Here's the thing. Okay. I'm just gonna ask you. Think about Nintendo franchise. Like, think about the Smash Bros. Characters and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me about the series that started on the NES. Or not, I mean, it hasn't necessarily started on the NES, but just tell me about, like, the series that they had back then.
Wow.
SNES, NES.
They had Mario, they had Donkey Kong, they had Kirby, Metroid, Super Metroid, Zelda, Pokemon. That wasn't NES or Super Nintendo, but
I mean, but it's pretty old.
yeah. What other characters in this? Captain Falcon. Is he? What is he from again? Is he like F-Zero?
F-Zero.
Yeah, F-Zero. Okay. Star Fox.
Okay.
That's about it.
So, mostly, when I think about the big Nintendo franchises, let's say specifically ones that were there, in 16-bit.
For Sega?
No, for Nintendo.
Oh, for Nintendo.
They I think they just did a better job at creating timeless characters.
Why is that?
You could argue that Link kind of played into the famous Dungeons and Dragons craze at the time. But even just like when Japanese people do that type of style, like even Final Fantasy, it just feels a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like its own thing. Mario is its own thing. Now Metroid, maybe kind of went off that alien craze at the time, but they did a good job making its own thing. And I mean, like, what is Kirby? Like, Kirby's just Kirby.
Kirby, yeah, it's just a mascot adventure game.
Star Fox might be like kind of space, but it's kind of the same thing. It just is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to Sega, on the other hand, a lot of their franchises, I felt like, especially with 16-bit, kind of went with the time. Now, one of the bigger, hold on, I'll be right back. This is in the freezer.
Well, that kind of ties into what I was thinking of earlier. Was like when you get to Sega Saturn and you see Sonic Team didn't want to make any Sonic games. Instead, they made two games that have no matter what you think about them, they have very low commercial appeal. Like, think about like Knights. Like, what audience is Knights trying to reach? I mean, like, it's this weird like flying around game where you fly around in like preset paths through these levels, and there's like 7 levels, and that's it. And it's like arcade style. Like, what audience is that going for? On a console, and then just like the weird art style and everything. And Burning Range is the same way. It's like, it's not a shooting game. It's not platforming game, really. It's just this weird ass firefighting game for some reason.
Well, see,
with like anime style.
Okay, but that's the thing about that, because like, for instance, we could say the same thing about like Star Fox. Who was that going after? Like, the space craze at that point had almost kind of been over.
When I would say Star Fox is probably one of their weaker franchises, really.
I mean, that's true, but I mean, like, he's there. I mean, well, case in point, what is Mario going for?
Well, Mario's just a mascot platforming adventure game, really. Which like Sonic appeals to everyone.
Right. Well, see, and that's the thing. I mean, then like, we talk about Zelda, Metroid. I just feel like what Nintendo did was, and maybe not so much the franchises initially, but they did a good job with bringing those franchises into the future, bringing it into every single generation that they had. You see, Sega. One of the ones I was gonna before I stepped away. There was a big thing in the late '80s, early '90s with like basically cool, gritty white dudes beating up shit. That was like the thing to do. So like Metal Gear Solid, for instance, took part in that. Movies you can talk about like Rambo or whatever.
Escape from New York.
Escape from New York. What Mission Impossible was that from that time?
Yeah,
I don't even know. It was like, oh yeah, cool white dude beats up shit. Like Terminator.
Right.
So Sega really kind of cashed in on that with stuff like, damn, jumped on that bitch. Really kind of cashed in on that with stuff like, Streets of Rage. White dude, white woman, black man walk down the street, beat up shit. That was very, very 90s.
Inescapably 90s.
Exactly. And another one that kind of went off of that was Shinobi. Oh, ninjas and shit. Oh shit. That kind of played off of that too. Shinobi, he didn't have very much. Like Link, for instance. Link is like this. If he were just a character in Magic the Gathering, or Dungeons and Dragons, you could see that character be like, oh, it's just some dude.
Yeah.
But like he has like this character to him that makes him timeless. At that time, I feel like Joe Musashi, the character from Shinobi, in most of the games, he was just a ninja.
Yeah.
He didn't really have like any sort of
a ninja with a name.
Exact like he wasn't like, oh, this guy can be. He was just there.
Yeah, he didn't have like a arch nemesis or like some kind of goal, or because that's like Link. He always has Princess Zelda. He always has Ganon. Mario always has Bowser. Always has.
Well, and that's the thing.
Princess,
I mean, like
like there's always like some kind of conflict or character issue that surrounds him.
I mean, he had it. Like there was Zed. I feel like that's the boss's name. But like that's just some shit that like if you play the games.
Right.
Whereas like I've never played a Zelda game all the way through in my life, and really I can only say that I've really spent time, like legit time, playing like 2 or 3 of them. But I know Ganon, I know Zelda, I know Link.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you see, Sega just doesn't have that. And so then what happened was like, when the Saturn came out, they basically were like revamping all their franchises. Not revamping them. They were like making new ones. There was just so much stuff that they just left behind with Sega.
What new ones?
Genesis.
What new ones did they make? So they made Panzer Dragoon.
Panzer Dragoon. Virtua Fighter.
Yeah.
Sega Rally, Daytona. Burning Rangers, Knights.
Yeah. That just died
Virtua Cop.
Virtual On.
Yeah, I mean
that's first party. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, Virtual On's first party.
Yeah, they had a lot of the virtual stuff.
Exactly. So I mean, I got it. The company. The aesthetic of games was changing. 2D to 3D. But why get rid of all of your recognizable characters? I mean, for the most part, I would say 64 really only had one new quote unquote franchise that you could include in the legendary games, and that was, 007 Perfect Dark.
Right. Well,
Everything
yeah,
else was like,
I guess GoldenEye did spawn a lot of the James Bond games, and then Perfect Dark. But I mean, Perfect Dark never really went anywhere either.
right. But that, because at the time it had Rare, because Rare made Donkey Kong.
Rare got bought by Microsoft and just completely fell off the map.
So it was like, and then on top of that, what Nintendo did, which was very good in that 32-64-bit era, was make Smash Bros.
Yeah.
They continued Mario Kart. They made Mario Party. They made Diddy Kong Racing. Mm-hmm. They made all these franchises, like these new franchises that were almost solely there just to remind you of their franchises.
Yeah.
So that it kept all those characters relevant. It kept all of them there. Because Captain Falcon, for instance, there was no F-Zero game on 64. This shit, there's barely any F-Zero games now.
I think there was an F-Zero game.
No, there might have been. There wasn't a Metroid game.
No.
There was no Metroid game. But Samus was there in Smash Bros. So you don't forget that she's there.
Yeah.
By the time Sega had redid Shinobi, you got a whole new character.
Yeah, and it's on PlayStation.
On PlayStation, totally done. What happened to Streets of Rage?
Gone.
Is dead forever.
Yeah.
All those old racing
Panzer
games, like
Dragoon, are already gone.
But see, I'm like, Panzer Dragoon, I'm like, because that, like
that,
exactly, that was like a new one already. Phantasy Star really missed its chance there. I mean, they definitely came back strong with online, but where was it in the third? Like, why wasn't there a Phantasy Star to compete with Final Fantasy?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really, the Saturn was really just a disaster in a lot of ways, I think, because like a lot of people, if you even like people that aren't Sega fans, they know about the Genesis and then even know about the Dreamcast. But a lot of them don't even know, like if you mention Sega Saturn, they probably have never even heard of it.
I haven't heard. A lot of people never just I saw that, I never played it.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, because like literally, for me, the only person I know that owned a Sega Saturn is you.
Basically,
literally, in my entire life.
Really?
I'm pretty sure the only person I've ever met that owned a Sega Saturn was you. So, like,
God damn.
I mean, like right there.
I mean, I've met some people that had them.
I don't think I've ever met another person that had them.
See, when I was a kid, my dad had this friend named Mr. Chuck. He's just this black dude who had this white wife. Just go to his house and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I got a Sega Saturn."
Saturn.
And like he had this. That's the guy I borrowed Mist from.
Oh, okay.
And so he had one. Like
he had Mist on Sega Saturn.
Yeah, he was like this.
That's probably pretty rare, I bet.
I think so. He was like this. He was like a 50-year-old black dude, just like chilling, with his like wife and shit. Like his kids were like away. Mm-hmm. He's like this nice little house. It just was like, yeah, you got Sega Saturn. I got some Huskies. He's one of those dudes. He always had Snickers and shit.
Yeah. These are the type of people that bought Sega Saturn.
Exactly. And like he wasn't like this was no Sega fan.
Yeah.
This was a guy who was just like in the store. Probably was at Best Buy. They were like, look at this new Sega, and he just bought it. It's funny because I remember as a child, I had to get the Saturn around 5 or 6. Same around 94 or whatever. I don't know exactly how I got it. I just know I was very young.
Yeah.
I remember my sister telling me who was 9 years older than me, get the PlayStation. The graphics are real. She was convinced that at the time PlayStation 1 looked like PlayStation 7. Like
PlayStation 9, like the commercial.
Exactly. Like the shit just looked so real. But I said, fuck that. At that time, I was like,
5 years old. Fuck
exactly.
that.
I was like, fuck that. You know, like I love Sonic. Like I
Right.
know I love Sonic, and that's why I bought the Saturn.
Little
And like,
did you know,
there was not gonna be a Sonic game.
there was not gonna be a Sonic game.
You know, I bought that system, and I held out. I mean, you know, the funny thing about I bet you if you find a lot of like practical Sega fans, you're gonna find out that they had to like revamp their whole gaming experience because Sega Saturn left them fucked.
Yeah.
You know,
There's nothing on it.
I mean, I like Genesis, like Streets of Rage and Sonic. That's all. That was all I wanted.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was all I wanted. Because I mean, even like you said, Star Fox is kind of weak. You know, so we talk about Nintendo franchises. They're definitely in tiers. You know,
Yeah.
Mario, Zelda,
Top tier.
Metroid.
Well, even Metroid. I mean, it's not top tier. I don't think.
I mean,
I mean, Super Metroid definitely top tier.
Well,
Metroid Prime, I never really played.
then what's like really top tier then? Mario
At
and
least
Zelda,
yeah, Mario and Zelda I think are really top tier. I
and
think
then
Metroid is probably a step down.
Metroid, Star
And along
Fox,
with like Kirby and stuff like that.
Donkey Kong, Kirby. You know,
But see, then like there's even other stuff too. Like on 64, I mean, they had Banjo Kazooie. They had those two games. They had what we said, Perfect Dark.
but Banjo Kazooie wasn't really first party though.
No, but I mean, Rare was with Nintendo basically at the time.
Oh yeah. But I mean, but that's my point though. Like, you know, Banjo Kazooie didn't stay with them, and they didn't need that shit. They had their
Yeah.
core. See what I'm saying? Like, Sega totally got rid of their core. You know. Now I have no problem with them bringing on new franchises. You know, Virtua Fighter, for instance. I love Virtua Fighter. I absolutely love it. I appreciate it even more as I got older. I'm gonna get my ass kicked, by the way, right now. But I love Virtua Fighter. I love it. Very, welcome addition to the Sega family. But I just hate that it had to come at the expense of, like, Shinobi, Sonic, and Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
You know, why? You know?
Why? No one knows. That's really the question. Why? What happened? I would like to, find it out. I would like to research it or whatever and see what the whole point was. But I mean, what happened was because Saturn was just like a black hole.
I think another problem with Sega was that they spent a lot of time. Even if we look at some of their big franchises, I don't exactly know the reasons why.
Shit's Duro.
Right, you're here to kick my motherfucking ass. I don't know the reasons why all the Nintendo franchises are made, but I can tell you right now, 3 franchises right off the bat.
Yeah.
Sonic, Streets of Rage, and basically Virtua Fighter. They weren't necessarily made because the developers had these dreams that they wanted to make. They were kind of made as reactions to things that were going on, mostly by Nintendo or other companies. Sonic, one of the big things with the Genesis was that it was faster than the SNES, right?
Yeah.
So they wanted to have something to show the speed. Because if you really look at it, Sonic 1 came out in 91, Genesis came out in 89. Master System had been out. So, like, Sonic wasn't their dream mascot. He came later.
Yeah, they had Alex Kidd and all that first.
So, they wanted something fast to show the speed, and they make Sonic.
Yeah.
Final Fight is an arcade smash hit. Blows it away. And beat 'em ups in general are growing. Capcom is not going to put out Final Fight on the Genesis. So what does Sega do? They make Streets of Rage. Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter are duking it out. King of Fighters exists. There's really no space to make a new 2D fighter. So how do you compete? 3D. It was like Sega. It was like everything they did was just a reaction to something else. So that's probably part of the reason why those franchises didn't continue is because even though we loved them as legit franchises, to Sega they were just these like competition pieces.
Right.
You know.
And once the competition wasn't there, they just said whatever. But then they replaced it with nothing.
Literally, like replaced it with.
I mean, because think about try to name like 10 or 15 like essential Saturn games. It's all gonna be like arcade games and stuff, you know.
Oh, hands down, arcade games and 2D RPGs, like.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that we need to get into our heads here. The two things that the Saturn did best, arcade games and 2D games,
RPGs.
are like the things that they were trying to rid the industry of at that fucking time.
Yeah.
Like literally, the two biggest things.
Going, even with Dreamcast, they kept going with the arcade games.
They kept going. The two biggest things they're trying to get rid of. Like, I mean, Final Fantasy VII is a fucking sit down at your house, blow your dick off masterpiece. I mean, look, I remember when I was like motherfucking, I don't even know, I was like 8 or 9 years old. Remember they used to have those computer shows?
Yeah.
They just come like some warehouse and be like, we got computer parts. And you go out there, they got like, you know.
Yeah, and all the different booths and
RAMs
stuff.
And shit,
Yep.
you know, and all this shit out there. I remember they had these like monitors on the fucking wall. They weren't on the wall, they were just like lined up. They had these fucking big fat ass white monitors. And they were playing like the opener from Final Fantasy VIII. When they're like at the ball and they're dancing.
Uh-huh.
At the time, I didn't even know what it was. But I remember seeing that shit and just like looking at it like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this 3D shit? Like, who made this? And what did they make it for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Little did I know, this was just the opening
to
the second of 3 major Final Fantasy games on the fucking PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
I want you to sit up here and tell me what Sega Saturn had. Sega Saturn does not even have a game that can rival the fucking opening FMV of Final Fantasy VIII.
No.
They don't even have a game that can rival that shit.
No, they don't. They don't even have games that had FMV cutscenes like that, really.
Basically, you know, oh, we got great 2D games. Who cares if we got great 2D games? You know what I'm saying?
No.
That's not what we're looking at right now.
No, you can't. You can't show something like that and then show Albert Odyssey.
Look, I'm not gonna sit up here and say Albert Odyssey isn't dope. I'm sure it is.
It is a good game. It is a good game. I played it when it first came out. I rented it from Video Hits Plus.
You know,
I played it all day. It was really good, but
that's not what we were doing.
It's a Genesis game, you know.
That's not what we were doing at the time.
It's a Genesis game.
I mean, that video at the time was mind blowing.
Now, see, this is making me curious. I need to look up Sega Saturn exclusives and see what they were working with, because
you know what I mean? Like,
because I really have a hard time. Because if you try to name Sega Saturn exclusive, what are you're gonna get? Like, you know, like Fighters Mega Mix, Daytona US. Like, you know, I mean, they're fine, but it's not. Like you said, it's nothing that's gonna compete with Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy.
I mean,
7, 8, and 9.
Look. Like, you know, I got this comic book sitting over here, right? It's got this Fighting Vipers advert in it. You know, this is like an Xbox comic book, like 96, 97. And you know, you read it, and it's like telling you all this shit that the characters do, like cool rollerbladers, packing a punch, you know, skateboarders, kicking the ass, you know. And it's got all this stuff in the ad, and like it sounds so cool. And I've read it, Fighting Vipers, more than once back in the day, you know. Played it. Yeah, it was cool at the time. But then Namco makes Tekken 3.
Yeah.
And it has Tekken Force mode.
It doesn't just have arcade versus practice mode.
But you know, it has team battle. You know, it has it has a theater mode, survival.
It had the fully rendered endings and all that.
You know, so it was like even the fighting game, everybody was trying their best to make
remember
these.
the endings in Tekken 3 though? Those were fucking awesome.
I mean, yeah,
the
of course.
Endings. Every character had their own rendered ending.
The shits were beautiful. You know?
Okay, here we go. You got a list of Saturn exclusives here. Now I'm just gonna ignore the ones I have never even heard of.
And on top of that, okay, actually, first, you know what I want you to do?
What?
I want you to read Saturn exclusive games.
Mm-hmm.
Read me off the ones that had a major game on the Genesis.
They had a major game on the Genesis. It's probably gonna be slim to nil. They had a major game on Genesis. Golden Axe, The Duel.
Okay.
That was a Saturn game. Saturn Bomberman. I guess there was but that's, you know, Bomberman was on everything. So, Shining Force 3. There's Shining Force games on Genesis. Sonic Jam, Sonic R. And that's literally it.
Shinobi should be on there.
I don't see any Shinobi. Oh yeah, Shinobi X. Shinobi X.
That's it.
That's it. That's literally it.
And then on top of that, how many of those games that came on the Saturn were actually good? Or like had people play them,
None.
you know? We already know about the Sonic and the Shinobi game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen to these shits though. Bug 2, Burning Rangers, Clockwork Knight 2, Daytona USA, Die Hard Arcade, Fighters Mega Mix Fighting Vipers, Golden Axe, Hang On GP 96. There you go. Just Hang On. Last Bronx.
Dope game, though.
Knights, Panzer Dragoon Zways, Panzer Dragoon Saga, or Robotica. I remember that game. That game was weird. Saturn Bomberman, Sega Rally. And it's like at least 50% arcade games. Sega Rally, Sega Touring Car Championship, Sega Worldwide Soccer, House of the Dead. Virtua Fighter Remix, Virtua Fighter 2, Virtua Fighter Kids, Virtua Cop 2, World Series Baseball, and that's it. I mean, literally. The list of exclusives is very small.
Oh, I bet.
I bet if you compare this, okay, let me see here. Sega Saturn only is 120.
121 exclusives?
Yeah, Sega Saturn exclusive is 120. I bet you if you looked up PlayStation, it'd probably be at least like 3 times that.
I mean, definitely, because most of the PlayStation games that were dope were exclusive anyway.
Right.
You know, and see, and
yeah, PlayStation just had way more good. That's why I used to remember going to the video store when I was a kid. We'd go. My dad never liked to buy games. He used like to rent games over and over again. So we'd go rent them. And I always remember like going to, so, you know, I'd have a PlayStation. I said Sega Saturn. So we'd go through the Saturn section, and it was like one like row of shelves, and then I would go over like around it to the PlayStation section, and it would be 2 rows of shelves like on both sides. And of course the cases were almost smaller, so I mean they could fit even more in there. So there was just like so many more games.
you know.
That always made me feel kind of jealous.
Well, you see, and the thing that I really loved, though, I have to admit, I loved about that time. You know, especially when I compare it to this generation. You know, I mean, what exclusives does PlayStation 4 have? Street Fighter 4, 5, Bloodborne, the Yakuza games, which haven't even really come out in the States yet.
I mean, they're getting some. They're getting Neo. They're getting.
Oh yeah, Uncharted, Neo. But and then Xbox has what? Gears and
Like,
Halo.
well, that's the thing. Xbox has like literally nothing. They have Gears, Halo, and Forza.
You know,
At least
but
PlayStation has Gran Turismo, Shenmue 3. God, what's that other game? Last Guardian.
I mean, it has those small ones, but like you see, like, but then like when we look at like the heavy hitters though,
Yeah.
it's all like multiplayer.
Right.
What I did love about that time was like when you were talking about like heavy hitters,
You had to pick.
you had to pick. Like there was, it wasn't like yeah, because like you could when we talk about the games people gonna play, okay. Because even in the Genesis days, don't get me wrong, you had Mario and Sonic, but like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
multiplayer.
Right.
When it came to fucking 64, but like it was like
That I remember
Rogue
that.
Squadron.
It was hard to pick sometimes.
Like that was hands down the number one hard to pick era, hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that because like PS2 is that really not even a competition. That was like the era of like why did you pick that? Like why would you buy that when PlayStation 2 is out? Like why? Why would you buy that? It was either like have a GameCube and PS2, a Xbox and PS2, or have a PS2.
Yeah, I had an Xbox and a PS2.
Exactly. Like that just was it.
I mean, even so, though, I mean, although Xbox and GameCube didn't have as many essential exclusive games, they did have the ones they did have were pretty excellent. Halo and Halo 2.
Oh yeah, that is true. Like
Ninja Gaiden, those are, as far as I'm concerned, there were no equals to those on anything else.
Oh,
I mean, there was not a better shooting game, and there was not a better action game, in my opinion.
No, yeah, it's like GameStop will sell those packs that's like Rick your blade from the pad,
Yeah.
and like it comes with like Arkham Asylum and like Call of Duty, like
Yeah.
these. I mean, they're, like good games in their own right, but like it doesn't matter if you have it on 360 or PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're gonna buy like a PS2, like GTA may have come out on Xbox, but nobody thinks thinks of that.
And it was way later.
PlayStation 2. Halo? Are you serious? Smash Bros? Are you serious? But, long story short here, what I just want to get at is just the fact that Sega, they just did very poorly with their franchises. They didn't do a good job of making them on either generation, and they did even worse job with continuing them.
Yeah, they're all kind of hollow.
Extremely hollow. Take Shinobi for instance. Okay. You bring out the original Shinobi games. Plays Joe Musashi. He doesn't really even have he has a bit of a following. Then you come out with this very small time game on the Saturn that nobody even hears about.
Shinobi X.
He doesn't get a Dreamcast game.
No.
Comes back on PS2 with a totally new character.
What was the guy's name again?
Hotsuma.
Well, that's right.
Then you release another game on the PS2 with another totally different character.
Yep.
Not
even with the Shinobi name. Too.
Exactly.
Not even with the Shinobi name.
Not terrible games at all. Not terrible games. Not Ninja Gaiden.
No.
But not terrible games. But that just could have been executed so much better. I really feel like that 32-bit era was like that was the time, like that was the time.
And they missed it. They fell asleep.
Look, I'm just gonna tell you like this, because I mean, they were coming off such great shit with the Genesis. Number one, if they didn't do that, boo boo ass launch with the Saturn.
Let's talk about that for a little bit. The Saturn Day. What was that about again?
So basically, long story short, my information may be slightly wrong or whatever, but long story short, you know, Sega goes to E3 and they have this new system called the Saturn, and you know, they have this, you know, E3, you know, is always in the summer. They have this release they set for the fall, and then blah blah blah. At E3, they're like, guess what? It's available right now. So everybody at E3 is just like, what the fuck? So Saturn is just in the stores, and you know, all these retailers were like, you know, planning in your equipment, we're gonna have Sega Saturn, you know, and then they find out like, wait a minute, Sears on the road, whoever has it right now, like what, you know. So you piss off all these retailers, you piss off all these customers, you know.
Going in the store saying, where's the Saturn, and they don't have it.
You know, you piss off developers. Like, we were developing a game at the release in November.
Yeah.
And now it's out in June? You just gonna fuck us, you know? Piss everybody off.
That's dumb. Yeah, communication is key in business.
You know.
You can't just, you know, shock everyone.
And then, once that came out, they just did not, like, the Sega never future-proofs their systems. They basically think about, like, what's hot at this exact moment, and then they make a system based off of that.
Yeah, that exact moment in time, frozen.
Because, I mean, they basically made a super-powered Genesis.
Yeah, and then they made a superpower Saturn for Dreamcast.
You know, I can't stress enough how ridiculous to me it is to really sit back and think that people, you know, applaud the system for doing 2D well. You know, you know, why?
2D. No one was checking for 2D.
Exactly. You know, and look, like PlayStation had Star Ocean. You know, it had a couple 2D classics.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of
Tactics.
I'm trying to think of the 64. How many because I remember like the 2D games stuck out on the 64. There was Mischief Makers. What else was on there? There was some other 2D game, but like yeah, they were like very small, just kind of one-off games. They weren't like, you know, the pride of the 64 by any means.
You know,
or the focus.
The sheer fact of the 64 like makes you know, like, Nintendo had basically, you know, because PlayStation, they still depended on, like, you know, 2D things a little bit because, you know, they had all these pre-rendered backgrounds, Final Fantasy and stuff. Nintendo had this like fully 3D thing going on. You know, they weren't really like pre-rendered. You know, it was like everything was boom, like graphics.
Well, yeah, and so Sega totally missed. They just fell asleep during that whole period when they should have been, like you were saying before, like that's when they should have been figuring out how we're gonna continue our stuff going forward. Like, how are we gonna do a Sonic game in 3D? And you know, you would figure it out during the Saturn period, but they just didn't. And so the first 3D Sonic game comes, you know, in 1999. After, and that's the thing, is like, you know, it's out, okay, it's a 3D Sonic game, but in many ways, like, Super Mario 64 looks better, moves better, better animation, less glitches, like, just everything about Super Mario 64 works better than Sonic Adventure. Because, and it's like, think about that. I mean, that was so long after that game, and they're still not doing it as well.
You know,
like, think about like the faces and stuff in Sonic Adventure, like how the faces would just glitch out, so that like their eyes would be all fucked up, or like just like the characters would move weird, they'd be like walking in place and stuff. Like, that doesn't happen in Super Mario 64 or in Ocarina of Time, like
totally works.
Or Majora's Mask or whatever. And it's like, you know, half the bits. 64-bit to 128-bit, and they just like, what are you doing?
You know,
And then the version of Sonic Adventure that we played is like the polished version too. That's the other thing, because they came out with it on Dreamcast way before, or in Japan way before, like a year before. Then they came out with it in the US, and it was like the polished version, and it's still fucked up.
I mean, they just see, you know, with things like that, you know, yeah, like they just it was almost like, okay, at first you were known for making these, you know, like 2D games or like irrelevant games. And then you just become known for like releasing unfinished and shitty games. You know, like why?
Exactly.
You know,
Why?
you know. Another thing I don't get too is like why wasn't there some sort of, you know, discussion? Because look, like in this game right here, you can see where, you know, they have you go all over the map and fight challenges different arcades. You know. Club, Sega, whatever, all those things are real. These are real arcades. They have real arcade games that flourish still to this day. You know, they don't only have Sega games in their arcades, they have other games in there as well. But why was there a disconnect? You know, like arcade division is doing this. Home console division is doing this.
No, there was no home console division.
You know, because they just wanted so badly to take all these games from the arcade and put them in the home. It just,
that's not, you can't pay full price for that at that time. How much were they charging for Dreamcast games?
like same as now, 50 or 60.
I think it was. I don't think it was 60. I think it was 50. $50 for crazy taxi. $50 for
NFL Blitz 2000.
what? I mean, worse than that. Sega Bass Fishing, which, as I'm told, it is the best fishing game. Period. But still, $50. Seaman, $50 for Seaman.
I was about to say, what about Seaman?
Seaman, yeah. What the fuck is Seaman?
He doesn't even know.
The only games that you could really just like this, like the only home console games on Dreamcast are like Shenmue. I guess you could say Sonic Adventure and stuff. I don't know. I guess there was a lot of third-party crap.
You know,
Blue Stinger. What are you doing?
I'm gonna change again.
Change.
You know, like it really, honestly, it pains me to think about. You know.
Loud when he listens. He's like so distraught.
Yeah, because he realized that Dreamcast doesn't have a fucking home game.
No.
You know.
Yeah, it's Shenmue.
What was so, you know, and that, because that's the thing, I'll sit there and I'll be like, yeah, I want to play my Dreamcast, but I pull it out.
You're like, what am I gonna play?
Trick style?
Trick Style. Trick Style's fun though. But
Yeah, and so was Connecticut. But how? Oh shit, man! Let's play Connecticut. You know, nobody's thinking that. You know.
Mortal Kombat Gold, man.
Yeah, Mortal
Kombat Gold.
Mortal Kombat. That's what. Who is breaking out their piece? Oh, bro, you want to get some Connecticut in? Who's breaking out their piece? But seriously though.
Gun or something?
But at the same time, yeah, it's that.
Resogun.
When the last time you broke out your PlayStation 1 and played Time Crisis?
I don't have a PlayStation 1. you know, if I did, I'm sure I'd be breaking it out all the time to play Time Crisis.
You know, but we'll run around here and want to play, you know, fucking Virtua Cop.
Oh, it's the Nightshade. Okay, I'm interested. I don't think I've ever seen this game actually.
Really?
Yeah, I know I've seen. Well, I might have seen it. Yeah, all the games that you would like on the Dreamcast or Saturn, you'd play for 10, 15 minutes and it'd be done. Even what the good thing about that is a lot of them you can beat in a short period of time. Like Nights, if you break out your Sega Saturn, play Nights, you could probably beat it in like 2-3 hours. Get all the endings.
I mean, there's nothing like this even on the Dreamcast. You know.
No, there's nothing even remotely close to that. I'm surprised it's a Sega game.
Right. You know.
Proceed with your mission.
You know, it really kills me to see games like this, like Yakuza series, or even when they made Binary Domain. I feel like both of those games could have
Holy shit.
been some sort of successor to Streets of Rage, you know. But they aren't. They weren't. You know. They could have done something.
This game looks pretty cool. Is this a good game?
I mean, it's better than Shinobi, but it's not as good as Ninja Gaiden.
Well, I mean, Ninja Gaiden on Xbox is one of the best action games of all time. Wow, yeah, I don't know about these graphics. They actually have kind of a charm to them, though. Yeah,
I forgot how to play this.
yeah, this does look a lot like the Shinobi one.
It is. Oops.
I don't know. So, what do you think made Sega do this?
Do what?
I mean, make these kind of decisions with their. I mean, where they just weren't maintaining their franchises. Or I mean, I guess another question would be like, because you were mentioning like, you know, Mario Kart, Mario Party, these like ancillary games to their main series. But then, you know, Sonic had like Sonic Shuffle, Sonic Spinball. So why is it that those are so shitty?
Okay,
And they're like a joke, you know. Like when someone mentions Sonic Shuffle, it's a joke. It's
okay,
like,
look. and so was like Mario Basketball. And Mario, you know, like nobody's playing Mario Tennis. I mean, some people may. It's Mario Kart and it's Smash Bros. Like those are the ones. You know.
Do you think like well, that's the thing with Sonic. I feel like they early on they sold out the license to other developers to make these kind of extra. Damn, you just died quick. To make these like little extra side games. I don't know, to, you know, keep them, you know, fresh in everyone's mind or whatever, or just, you know, try to squeeze more money out of them or whatever. And it kind of like killed the sanctity of the series, like early on, or
Definitely.
damaged it because it's like, you know, you got Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic Knuckles, you know, like classic. But then you got Sonic Spinball, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Green Bean Machine or whatever. Mean Bean Machine. That's why did I say Mean Green? Mean Bean Machine. What else did they have? They had like the Tails games on the Game Gear, like the Tails Adventures or whatever, Sonic Schoolhouse or whatever, Sonic Triple Trouble, Sonic Drift. You know, just meaningless crap. Sonic 3D Blast, even Traveler's Tales game, Sonic R. Like, there's just no standards of quality that they maintained, because you would never see, Nintendo would never, I mean, I guess, you know, they're not that all Mario and Zelda games have been perfect. I mean, I look at those, I forget what those shitty Zelda games are, like the PC ones or whatever.
The Philips CDI.
Yeah, like the, you know, I mean, obviously, like, you know, that's out there, but other than that, I mean, there's nothing like, there's no Mario games that I can think of that are like on the level of shittiness of like Sonic R
Or Sonic 06.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like a main series game, but like, just like they wouldn't let some other developer come out with, you know, Mario R or some bullshit like that. And so it seemed like early on they kind of compromised their standards, and then it just got to the point where, like, well, it doesn't matter how good the game is, you know, we can just put it out as Sonic in the title and people buy it, you know, there's an audience for it, whatever, and then you end up with just shit and just low expectations every time.
See, and that, you know, that's it right there, you know. Sega was, you know, they were just so... Sega just didn't know how to write it out. You know? Because, yeah, you know, who goes back to the Genesis to play Mean Bean Machine? You know?
Nobody. No one would play that at all if they didn't put it on, like, every single, like, Genesis collection that they ever put out.
Sonic 1, 2, 3. Knuckles. Streets of Rage games. Shinobi games.
Now, talk to me about Sonic CD, because we were talking about Sonic CD before we started this.
It just doesn't, it just feels kind of whack to me.
Because I've never actually played it all the way through. I have played it on Sega CD.
Honestly, neither have I. I didn't play it all the way through.
I played it on Sega CD, and I remember it being kind of glitchy, and I remember the level design being kind of questionable.
Yeah, that's it right there. Okay. If you want the honest to God truth, I feel like Sonic 1, 2, and 3 and Knuckles were luck.
Luck?
I feel like it was all luck. I feel like Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3 was luck. I feel like Sega accidentally just made these dope franchises. Because it's just so crazy that when I play Super Mario 3D World, like it's just so Mario, you know, and it's like you pick it like like you pick it up and it's like nothing has changed. Mm-hmm. It's a new one, it's a dope game, but it's there.
Mm-hmm. They know the formula.
Sega does not know their formulas at all. They don't know.
So every Sonic game is like totally like a restart.
They don't know their formula. And
yeah, they never build on any progress that they make. It's like they'll make some progress. Like Sonic Unleashed, I guess, you know, they made That was the only time when they really did. It's like they made the speed levels, and then they made Sonic Generations, where they made the speed levels. But other than that, any progress they make, it's just like they just scrap it immediately. The next game.
The only time they did was with 1, 2, and Sonic 1, 2, and 3. You know, just kept getting better and better. You know, and the music, everything about those games was just dope. Sega just is not. Now, you want to know some crazy shit about this game that we're looking at now?
What?
Its release date is closer
2003.
to Sonic 3 than it is to today. Doesn't that seem crazy?
That is crazy.
So, we gotta keep in mind that all this Sega shit happened and fucking up happened in a pretty short period of time.
Uh-huh. Where is Sega today?
Fucked.
They don't make anything anymore.
I think Sega's best franchise right now is Yakuza.
Yakuza. But that's a game that like is so, again, like the audience, at least here, is so limited. And they do shit like, we're not going to release these games in America.
Alright,
You know?
okay. I just want to say something really quick. I said their best franchise right now. You're about to say Virtua Fighter, right?
Yeah.
How many years ago did the last new Virtua Fighter come out?
God. Like, what, like almost 10 years or something?
10 years.
10 years?
The last new Virtua Fighter game came out 10 years ago. I want you to think about that. I want you to stop and take that in.
Well, they don't have a whole lot left.
10.
They have Bayonetta.
No, they don't.
Isn't that, or they just published that?
You don't see Bayonetta 2 sitting down there on the Wii U?
Well, yeah, but there's no Sega consoles.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I mean, isn't that a Sega product?
No.
Or they just publish it?
They published one. That's straight Platinum Games.
Okay. So they just publish it. Well, I mean, go back to this Sonic show. What was that? A week ago? 2 weeks ago? And it's just like, you know, they're building up all this hype, and then what did they show? They show a goddamn Genesis game. This is their new game. And it's like, it's probably going to be good. Like, I listened to the soundtrack for the new stage, and I thought it was cool. I thought it was a great song. You know, it looks cool. The graphics look cool and everything. But, I mean, it's a fucking Genesis game. They're not even going to charge full price for, I'm sure. And like, you know, what are we doing here? You know, I mean, I guess if that's all they're looking for, if they're not looking to be big anymore, clearly, at least, you know, used to be AAA, and then you just fell asleep.
I mean, Streets of Rage 2.
I guess that's what we have to just realize is like they're not trying to be like top notch anymore. They're just trying to like get by.
I mean, Streets of Rage 2 is a AAA game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a AAA fucking classic.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody put Streets of Rage 2 in the top, they could put that shit. I mean, I wouldn't argue with it if it was in somebody's top 3 of 16-bit era. I wouldn't argue with it. I'm not gonna sit there and say it's be in a bunch of people's.
Uh-huh.
I would think you were crazy for not putting it in like a top 25, 16-bit era. I would say you were crazy for that. Yeah, like they don't do that. They don't do that anymore.
No.
You know, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing with okay. Do you want to know why I think Yakuza is like their best franchise?
Why?
It's because like Yeah, I mean, they do not do a great job with releasing it in America. That's also partially because of the fan base. But Yakuza is what it is. You know, like it. It of course was born out of Grand Theft Auto a little bit, but I think that was more so how they wanted to play it in the West to appeal to our audience. Yakuza is Yakuza, and like it's not trying to be anything else. It's not necessarily trying to compete with anything else, because it's really the only game out there that I can think of. I mean, yeah, because it's basically like a new beat 'em up. You know, there are very few games that I like what else? Like, there's no other new beat 'em ups really. You know,
Ninja Turtle.
yeah, fuck that shit. And like, you know, the way because the Yakuza just works so much different. You know, like you fight people in the streets and shit. You know, it's just not just like levels of beat 'em up. It's like Shinmu, just with like 100% more fighting.
Right.
Yeah. You know. Yeah, like and yeah, like they took the Shinmu equation and made Yakuza with it, and like yeah, like that right there is what Sega needs more of. You know, these like very distinct games that they do. Like, there's really nothing else out there like Yakuza.
But they had to make sure their distinct games aren't horrible shit like Seaman. There's nothing like Seaman, but you know that's a good thing.
True.
Like, no one wants to see that. No one wants to see Crazy Taxi. No one wants to see
Billy Hatcher and the Giant Snatch.
yeah.
Billy Hatcher and
Choo
the
Choo
Giant
Rocket.
Snatch.
Choo Choo Rocket.
Choo Choo
Space
Rocket.
Channel 5.
Doo doo fuck shit. Somebody wants to play that game.
Space Channel 5.
Space Channel 5 might not be that bad, but like,
Yeah, but come on.
you know, honestly, I think the game, out of the games that are out right now, the game that I think Sega should have made and the game that feels the most Sega to me right now is Dark Souls.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, Sega owns Atlas now, and Atlas was the
Yeah, good luck with them getting their hands on any of the rest of that shit.
right. Yeah.
You know, the reason why I say that is because, you know, I think Sega really loves like games. You know, they just they never did a great job at making these like like home console
Yeah, like
masterpieces.
mass appeal games.
They never did a good job at that.
Yeah, they're kind of like dorky games.
And Dark Souls is basically that for this generation, you know. It's the only game where I just sit back and, you know, really feel like my hands are physically getting better at this game, while my character isn't doing so as much. You know, yeah, it makes you feel like Streets of Rage. You know, like there's no leveling up in that.
No.
I mean, yeah, of course, Dark Souls has leveling up, but if you've
yeah,
played
but
the game,
yeah,
you know how it works.
It's so minute, like, you know, you level up 10 times and your health might increase by, you know, a fraction or something.
Exactly. It's
Your
all about
attack
you
power,
getting better.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about you getting better.
Yeah, and that's a Japanese game made by all Japanese people that does not cater to the player in any way, that is successful.
Totally successful. Sega.
And Sega sits up here and apologizes for making shitty games, and they say in their apology that they've realized that, you know, as long as the games are quality, they will sell in the West, even if they are, you know, very Japanese in nature. And I'm like, really? It took you how long to figure that out?
You know,
You know, you've been releasing games in the West for 30 years, and just now realizing that they have to be, they won't just sell based on their own merit. I mean, they have to be quality games. No one's gonna just buy it just cause.
That shit just legitimately pisses me off. But see, but maybe that holds true because, like I said, like Streets of Rage series, Sonic series, might have just been a fluke. That whole time, Sega may have just felt like if we play into these, stereotypes or whatever, we'll win. And they may have just worked for so long, and worked for a lot longer than others for some franchises. Like, Sonic, for instance, lasted them 4 games. Streets of Rage lasted them 3 games, But
done for. Well, anything else?
I just want to end this video off by saying that, Sega just really fucked themselves up. Like, so badly. The Sega Saturn is so little respected.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to the game store. Like most game stores you go to, they have like this very small section of stuff. Like it's so embarrassing.
It's a very small section.
It's true, and every time you go to a game store,
this classic game store you go to has this very small Saturn section. I'm guessing.
Well, it's smaller than most, but it's like like they have like 4 rows of Japanese Sega Saturn games for like small rows. It's just sad. You go to a game store and you look at the Saturn section, and what do they have? Like, it's always like 6 sports games in Daytona, USA. 6 sports games, Virtual Cop, and some movie game.
Some movie game? What movie games do they have?
Who knows? Some 90s bullshit.
Oh, Die Hard. The Die Hard arcade games.
Yeah, fuck that game. Okay, first of all, you remember when I had that?
Die Hard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Did you ever play it?
Yeah, and did you know that apparently, like, that was just some, like, Japanese video game that they just put Die Hard on when they released it in the West? And apparently it's, like, a really good game, and, like, now it's, like, kind of rare.
Really?
Yes. Totally pissed me off.
So it's not even related to Die Hard?
No.
Does it have, like, Bruce Willis on the cover and stuff?
I don't think so.
It's just Die Hard. That sounds like something they would do. That's pretty bad.
Oh yeah, it's definitely fucking bad.
I need to get Daytona USA though, because I need to do the Daytona USA stream. All Daytona USA, all the time.
It's germs, man.
Just Germans.
Make me feel filthy.
Well, I guess that's it then. For now.
Fuck Sega.
I know. Well, see, I still, one of these days we got to get into it with Sonic. I mean, we got into Sonic a little bit this time, but I mean, my God, Sonic is really, in my opinion, is just the key to all of this.
I mean, I can go on for days.
I know. Days.
Years, months. I mean, Sonic is such an abomination. Like, it, honestly, I really don't even want to, because, like, when it comes to like these games, I've kind of like gotten over them.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of feel like Sonic like makes me want to kill myself when I talk about it.
It's physically weak.
It's so disgusting.
Yeah. Well, I think we should save that one for next time.
Let's do that.
Sonic Team, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic Dick.
God bless and good night.